Benchmark, the voice of business. Presented by LMD.
On this edition of Benchmark, Ramya Weerakoon, the incoming president of the National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka, is in the hot seat as we assess Sri Lanka's export sector. Up next, Nielsen's managing director Sharang Pant explains the 25 basis point jump registered by the LMD Nielsen Business Confidence Index in November. And we wrap up the show with LMD's columnist Shiran Fernando, who offers some insights into Sri Lanka's macro outlook. That's the lineup for Benchmark.
Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Benchmark. I'm Savitri Rodrigo. Today we have with us in our studio Ramya Weerakoon, the incoming president of the National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka. And she joins us on the program today to discuss a little more information and to give us a little more information on the export sector and how it's faring. Now, among them, she will also give us an idea of the role of the National Chamber of Exporters in this current economic climate and also how global economic uncertainty and the rupee depreciation is impacting exporters in general. Ramya, thank you very much for joining us on Benchmark. Welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Now, just as a start off and just to break ground, what is your assessment of the export sector briefly?
It progressed well, but for the past few years it has declined. What I can say, the government has a national export strategy, but it's very doubt that we can achieve those targets at the rate we are in now. The US dollar 28 billion by 2022 has been the target with a 15% growth. But we do not see this happening, and because now it's like it's more like 10% growth for the past few years, and for us to gain this over the past 10 years, the export percentage to the GDP has down from 33% to 13%, and the country exports has not grown, I think, except for the apparel industry.
I'll get back to you on some of those statistics and, the general what has been happening. But as the incoming president of the NCE, what is the role that the chamber will actually have to play in this current economic climate?
Yes, the chamber responsibility is to support the exporters, that is, in their issues, to intervene with the government authorities and help them to go beyond in their activities. That is the main objective of the chamber. Apart from that, to improve the export industry, the export altogether, we will be lobbying with the government authorities with certain areas in policy decisions, etc., to support the exporters.
The way things are right now, how difficult is it for exporters to, or for the chamber to, for instance, interact with government the way things are?
Well, at the moment, it is the government bodies, the stakeholders are quiet because people, the government officials are unable to take a decision. But I think we should always think positively and take things forward.
For what it is worth, there is global economic uncertainty, and that naturally would impact exporters. Then there's the rupee depreciation as well, and a little bit of leeway when it appreciated a little bit. But there's been how has this impacted exporters?
Now, this is a global scenario, not only for Sri Lanka. Now, in other countries in the region, if you take like India, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Cambodia, they have macro level foreign investors. So therefore the impact is not so high for them. But Sri Lanka, we don't have that level foreign investors who has invested in here. So we will have that impact much, but for the exporters, the rupee depreciation and the appreciation of the dollar for a short time there is a gain, but this is not a healthy situation for the country in the long term.
Ramya, what you're saying is absolutely true, but the sector has to address these challenges. How are they doing that?
It is very important, the policy decisions made by the authorities should be should be the same without changing. For instance, the taxation and the incentive schemes are very important for the export sector, whereas we are fighting with a global market, whereas in the other countries in the region, they have the government bodies, they support with the incentives, especially to the what I say, to the small time, the lower sector of the exporters, and they should be encouraged. So this is how we should move forward for the sustainability in the export industry.
Well, here's wishing your wish list comes true, but what is your assessment of Sri Lanka's value-added exports? We've been doing bulk or just raw materials being exported constantly. Very little, if at all, is seen in the growth of value-added exports. What is your assessment, and how can we change the mindset of exporters to make them a little more aware that value-added exports are the way to go?
It is very important for Sri Lankan exporters because our country is no more cheap labor country. In the region, we are the most expensive. Therefore, and also our people are, the literacy rate is also much higher than in the region. We should make the best opportunity of this, and there should, especially the agriculture sector is needed to be supported with technology and research and development for them to export the products with value addition.
So currently you feel there isn't enough?
Not enough. Especially now we say tea. Of course, there are certain companies who add value and export, but still there are certain companies who are exporting the bulk tea. Rubber is also, we should turn out the components and export without exporting the bulk rubber. For example, even our gems, quartz, there are so many we are exporting in raw form.
So we will discuss this after the break, Ramya. Coming up after the break, the incoming president of the NCE, Ramya Weerakoon, discusses the major challenges confronting the exporters and also the role that SMEs can play in the development of the export sector. So stay tuned.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
LMD is making waves, airwaves. The next big thing from Sri Lanka's pioneering business journal, LMD Podcast, now online. Listen to our articles on the go at www.lmd.lk. Select, play, listen. It's that simple.
$8,500 done. 1,500 to go. Hoorah!
What on earth are you doing?
I'm making money.
You're crazy.
Crazy for money. 10,000 steps done. Who the man? I do it every single day. Show me the money.
So you run 10,000 steps every day, huh? You must be fit.
Some days I do 20,000. Hoorah!
Thank you for staying with Benchmark. We are discussing the export sector with the incoming president of the National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka, Ramya Weerakoon. Ramya, if you look at exporters in general, yourself included, what are the major challenges that you face at this point of time?
In case of our organization, I have started export as a SME way back in 1976 with batiks and handicrafts. But it was we were supported by the Department of Commerce to participate in trade fairs, and that is how we started the exports. Export Development Board has certain incentive schemes called EDIs. Even we received cash grant as EDIs for high exporters. These are the incentives we got at that time, but it's not gone away.
So the challenges that exporters face?
Actually, that time the interest rates of the banks were very high than now. It was from 19 to 21%. And that was a challenge which we had to overcome. But we went through. Still, we were able to overcome these by changing our way of going forward with the change of the global market.
So what you're saying is exporters need to be a little more aware of trends, or at least start looking at future trends.
Yes.
And work on those frameworks accordingly.
Yes. Actually, it doesn't come from any other. We have to look out what is next. And that is how I think the apparel industry leading the in the export sector, because the industrialists have got that vision to look for the next. Now we are looking for the next 2025. So that vision is there with the this particular industry.
Now, you mentioned the national export strategy, and then there's also Enterprise Sri Lanka and various strategies that are being put in place. But could you outline the measures that are needed to ensure that there are initiatives to facilitate business and make an impact at the end of the day? A strategy alone is not enough, right?
I believe so, Savitri. We can implement or we can introduce many way of we can call it a strategy or any other term, but how you implement and how you take it forward is the most important thing. And we have to be practical in setting up these. First we should look into the root cause without seeing on the surface. And the root cause of the industrialists, why they are lagging behind. So I believe we have to introduce the technology and innovation before we formalize any other policies or anything. We must go to the root cause of these industrialists and see the global market, and according to the market we should turn out our goods for the export. So that is very important, which we lack in certain industries, the modernization and the technology, because our labor is not cheap anymore, so we have to area to
more automation
to
be brought in.
So that has to be done, and for this I think they should give some soft loans to those industrialists who are willing to automate, the semi-automate, and go for high the technology transfer and for the value addition.
Earlier this year, former State Minister for Finance Eran Wickramaratne stated that it is vital to strengthen SMEs in exports so that earnings are dispersed and risks from exposure are reduced. Now, the ADB also gave, I think, $75 million to support SMEs and $9.5 million to support women-led SMEs. How do you view the role of SMEs in the development of the export sector?
During the time, I must say a little bit of my personal. During the time I was a SME, no such programs were there. So then we were very hard to work hard and come up at least to a medium scale and to the large scale. Supporting, we must monitor. You have to support them, but then you must monitor what they are doing with these funds. SMEs are there. Actually, they play a vital role in the country by giving job opportunities and supporting the economy to the country. And some of these SMEs support by producing and supplying to the large scale exporters. So I think that is a major area where we should look into, because to build up an exporter, there are so many other criteria which you have to look into, like the compliance, the quality of the product, and that company should be conversant in the delivery times. So all those come into play for an exporter. So for the beginning, as an SMEs, they should be developed to support the the big exporters, and later they will gain knowledge and the know-how how to get into the export business. But this type of thing, those are called the SME, but it's good for our certain women who cannot leave homes seeking other jobs. So I think these are the type of small enterprises that you can introduce.
You're right. One of the biggest problems SMEs would have is in marketing. They don't know the sources, they don't know where to go. So yes, then if you tie up with the bigger exporters, then that avenue is open. You're very right. You mentioned earlier that the government had set a target for an export target of 20 billion by 2020. Do you actually believe that the export sector can achieve these government targets?
At the present rate of increase, I think it is very unlikely. But in the apparel industry, I can say that the apparel industry could reach they have their own target.
Ramya, briefly, as a final question, what do you expect to see from the export sector in the future?
Savitri, I think I have more sort of some love for the export sector, because I started my career as an exporter and now we are very large in exports. The export should be the key factor to our country, because that's the sector we should develop to get the foreign exchange and to improve the development and the economy of the country. So I think we all should rally round to improve the export sector. That is and also as a hub in the Indian Ocean, our country is situated in a very ideal location, and we should make the maximum use of it. And not only the exports, we can have the transshipments and make it a maritime hub, and that all go along with the export sector. I wish and I believe that the export sector will go into greater heights in the country, and we all can look up to a bright future for the sector and to develop the economy of the country.
Well, I do hope your dreams come true, and good luck as the President of the National Chamber of Exporters, Ramya, and I do hope you have a great tenure ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Savitri.
So we've had the pleasure of discussing the export sector with the incoming President of the National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka, Ramya Weerakoon. On the other side, to discuss more issues, we have Anushan Selvaraja.
Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC.
LMD is making waves, airwaves. The next big thing from Sri Lanka's pioneering business journal, LMD Podcast, now online. Listen to our articles on the go at www.lmd.lk. Select, play, listen. It's that simple.
Done. 1,500 go. Hoorah!
What on earth are you doing?
I'm making money.
You're crazy.
Crazy for money. 10,000 steps done. Who the man? I do it every single day. Show me the money.
So you run 10,000 steps every day, huh? You must be fit.
Some days I do 20,000. Hoorah!
Welcome back to Benchmark. I'm Anushan Selvaraja. Now for a closer look at the latest on the LMB Nielsen Business Confidence Index. Joining me is the Managing Director of Nielsen, Sharang Pant. Welcome back to the show, Sharang. Now, despite the political upheaval towards the end of October, the PCI has gone from 85 to 110 now. Could you just explain the sensitivities behind this?
So, Anushan, we feel the increase in the index is largely because of the political development. There is some sense of excitement in the business community as well as the general citizens about what may be in store in the next few months given the political changes. And therefore, the indices have moved up, as you said, for business confidence from 85 to 110 and for consumer confidence from 46 to 54. Apart from the political developments, if you look at other happenings in the country, the inflation is moving down, so that will help the consumer confidence to some extent. The export performance is still quite stable, so that will again help the business confidence. So both macro front as well as political developments are the reasons why the index has moved up this month.
How do they feel about our business and investment prospects?
So when it comes to investment, leaders are still a bit cautious because only about 7% of them are still saying that the investment climate has improved. Most of them are still on the negative side of it. However, when it comes to the economy, now almost 18%, 2 in 5, talk about the economy improving in the next 12 months. That's in stark contrast to what we saw in the previous month, wherein only about 8 to 10% were saying economy will improve. When it comes to business performance, 1 in 3 are now saying the business outlook for the next 1 year could be good, given some changes that may come in with the new government. When it comes to short-term prospects, it's about 28% of the leaders who say the short-term prospects look good for their businesses.
What do they cite as the most crucial issues when it comes to the national front as well as the business side of things?
So when it comes to national issues, it's still the politics, economy, which is spoken about by everyone. The third one comes as corruption, which 3 in 4 talk about as a national issue. When it comes to business issue, it's again political interference, taxes, which is 100% of the leaders talk about these two as issues. And the third one being the depreciation of the Lankan rupee. In the last 2 months, rupee has depreciated more than 10%.
Thank you very much for joining us, Sharang. That was the Managing Director of Nielsen, Sharang Pant. We'll be right back after a short commercial break. Stay tuned.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
LMD is making waves, airwaves. The next big thing from Sri Lanka's pioneering business journal, LMD Podcast, now online. Listen to our articles on the go at www.lmd.lk. Select, play, listen. It's that simple.
Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm Anushan Selvaraja. Now for a closer look at the latest on the economy. Joining me is economist and LMD columnist Shiran Fernando. Welcome back to the show, Shiran. Now, it's been a tough time period for this country, but how is our economy coping with this?
So even prior to the recent, I think over the last month or so, even prior to these developments, the economy, I think, was in not in a peculiar situation, but in quite a challenging environment. And now with what's gone on, I think those challenges, or at least the outcomes of it, have more accelerated. And the key things, I think, debt refinancing, putting growth back on a high trajectory, getting some of the other indicators in check, have become even more, I think, more of a challenge for the economy, and what that means in terms of the outlook for next year as well. I think the governor has also come out very strongly and said that there is space for at least there is the ability to refinance some of the debt, especially in the first few months of next year, which is quite crucial. But the room to maneuver, I think, has become less, and I think that is a view that I would also sort of echo as well.
All that is well and done, but how is our economy going to recover from this?
So I think there is a clear need for what the policy will be. So if you look at things, if you look at institutions like the IMF, they were ready to disperse. They were okay on the 26th. They were ready to disperse by the 30th, but because of the events, I think that has got delayed. So even they are looking for that policy clarity. What are the policies going forward? And I think that will be key also for the investors, both the international ones who are more FDI and portfolio investors, as well as sort of the local ones who are thinking of expanding, because they need to know what is going to really take place, what is the environment in which business will play out in. So I think that needs to be a top focus once these things get resolved, and carefully managing the debt dynamics so that there is no real fallout to the real economy.
Now Moody's, S&P and Fitch downgraded Sri Lanka. Now what is the fallout from this?
So I think all have reduced one notch lower, and we're still within that very highly speculative grading. So it's just, I think, one drop lower. A lot of them, I think, have it's been more of the uncertainty which the political situation has brought about that has caused this. So it'll be, I think the central bank has been quite clear as well on that, to say that the economic fundamentals hasn't really changed. But given, I think, the global situation, especially this year where there was a lot of outflows from countries like Sri Lanka, currencies have been under pressure. The environment to refinance some of this debt, I think, challenge to that, I think, because when you plug that in with what's going on, I think that has been sort of the implications. On that as well, I think how we could recover is taking some of those steps, how the central bank will function, how the treasury will function, and once there is some semblance of normalcy as well, what steps will be taken in terms of the policy.
Thank you for joining us, Shiran.
Pleasure.
That was economist and LMD columnist Shiran Fernando. Thank you for watching Benchmark, and we hope to see you again next time.